Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Brand, Sweat, and Tears podcast. I'm your host, Dave Oldham. On this podcast, I talk to consumer product creators, the innovators, inventors, designers, and builders that are making wicked cool products. We talk about the why behind their big idea, the combination of hard work, luck, and timing that help them bring it to life, and the emotional and psychological roller coaster along the way. Let's get to it. Okay, today on my podcast, Brand, Sweat, and Tears, I have Jay Davis, who is the founder of Creatively, the founder of PillowCube, and owner and manager and curator of many other things, which we're going to get into. We're going to get into that. But I've been friends with Jay for a long time, and huge fan, kind of a fanboy, actually. I want to be Jay when I grow up.
That's nice.
But Jay is one of the kindest people I know, just a cool guy, but also has accomplished some amazing stuff in business and in the consumer goods space.
Thank you.
So what I think is really cool about your story and kind of unique is you started this creative agency, and I'll let you tell the story about how Creatively came about, but then also created your own products.
Yeah.
And have bought some, turned some around, like kind of have done a little bit of everything now in the consumer product space, which is awesome. And so you're eating your own dog food, marketing your own stuff, which I think puts you in this really cool position of authority or experience. You can talk to your own personal experience when it comes to starting a product, creating a product, bringing it to life, marketing it, selling it, everything, which I think is amazing and probably helps you a ton in the conversations with fellow creators, fellow entrepreneurs, because you're not just an agency that has done it for others, which is good, but you've done it for yourself, and you're walking the walk and talking the talk, which I think is awesome. So I'm excited about where this is going to go. I'm excited to hear some of the stories. Jay also has a podcast, The Jay Davis Show, right? And so we'll have to promote that a little bit at the end. And you get some other really cool guests on that are creators themselves. So start us out with how and where did you start Creatively?
Yeah. So, and thank you for the kind words. I started Creatively in 2017. I think it came about, I had done viral marketing before that, and had really kind of fallen in love with that process of blowing stuff up. And so being able to... Well, you
got to tell the story of the viral marketing before that, because I think it's actually kind of crazy.
So I started my career after college. My first job was at Vivint, back when it was Apex Alarm, and eventually worked my way into the product development team. Which was a team of one. It was just me, and just me and my boss. And so, I got to see kind of, I think Todd Peterson's a great entrepreneur. I was able to learn a lot from him and from the executive team, and just kind of observe how they did a lot of great things. I think they were able to push and build a consumer brand in Utah at a time when consumer really wasn't a huge thing in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the consumer companies in Utah
has been kind of famous, I mean, impressively so, on a global stage for B2B software, WordPerfect, and all these companies have kind of spun out of that tradition. Yeah. But consumer hasn't really been a thing, or at least wasn't a thing at that time.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, at the time, and this was 2008, 2009. I mean, I really can't even think, Traeger wasn't around yet. Skull Candy was. So Skull Candy was one of the other kind of few. There just weren't a ton. And so it was a great experience for me to see, this is how you can do consumer. And so I got to learn a lot of things there. And then I left and joined the Color Run, which was this kind of new event that no one had ever heard of. And the founder had invented this idea, come up with this original new idea of taking the Holly Festival that we do here in Utah as well. It's down in Spanish Fork, but they do around the world, and kind of took that and combined it with a 5K. Mm-hmm. And so it was really great.
And
I was able to see...
Suddenly all these themed runs just started exploding. Right?
Yeah.
Like Spartan and a lot of the obstacle, Dirty Dash.
Yep.
I can't even name. Like,
oh, there were so many.
Right?
And what's interesting is the mud runs were around when we started.
Okay.
It was actually Color Run that kind of started the 5K thing,
right.
where just all of a sudden it was like bubble runs and water races.
The
and water
obstacle
fights.
ones were more like tough endurance.
Yeah.
You know, I did a couple of those.
20-mile, 15-mile.
Some of those were brutal.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah.
And the Color Run was more super fun, like almost kids can do it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anyone can get involved. And it's not about like this endurance sport.
Yep.
It's more like super fun
and very
social kind of exercising.
Yeah.
Right?
It was crazy. And it was the perfect timing. It was visually appealing. And so it was really great there. I got to see like, man, this is this wild event thing. And I volunteered to just start creating content and videos. And so we started making videos and they started going viral. And it was a really fun experience. And then me and one of the guys that I'd hired started a YouTube channel. We started making videos ourselves. And those started going viral. And so it was a really fun kind of experience to go through and learn, like, here's how things take off. Here's how things grow. And that was always very interesting to me. And then I started to think about, like, how can I now apply this back to entrepreneurship?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I never wanted to be an influencer. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so I was always trying to figure out kind of how to make that happen. So how does something go viral? You're talking about, like, you started to learn about what made things go viral. The Color Run videos started going viral. Some of the crazy stuff. You got to talk about the ninja kitties or the flying kitty or whatever. Fruit Ninja.
Whatever, like that stuff.
Yeah.
What makes something go viral? I mean, it seems like an accident, right?
Yeah.
But then you started learning, like, maybe there's a pattern to this. Maybe there are some aspects that we can predict, or at least have a high likelihood that it's going to go viral.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was one of the things that early on I kind of realized. And a lot of that came through trial and error. You know, we had videos that we launched that didn't do as well, or they would, you know, kind of go viral, but not crazy viral. And so there was, like, also a varying
Is there a
level of
scientific,
success.
what's the distinction between viral and crazy viral?
I don't really think so. That's what's hard. I mean, technically anything that's going viral from a scientific standpoint is something that spreads to two people exponentially. And so if you give a disease to one person, they give it to more than two, and that starts to become a viral growth. And so very similar. I mean, in those early days of Facebook, we could see, like, hey, we were posting videos to our own Facebook. Like the very first one that we did, we decided let's only post it to our individual Facebooks and just see what happens. So we only did that. And then, 3 days later, J.J. Abrams retweeted it. I was like, okay, that was really viral.
And this is
like, I don't know him.
Kevin Bacon 5 degrees of separation. Like,
totally.
Who was connected to J.J. Abrams that was in your network?
Yeah. Well, and what was funny was
third, fourth.
People started reposting it, and they started sharing it on Reddit, and they started going to those places. They shared it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so back then, there weren't really algorithms. You just saw everything that everyone in your network shared. And so when
the good old days.
Yeah. Well, there was a social currency back then. That's what's interesting now. The social currency back then was finding new content that no one had ever seen.
Yeah.
And so it really enabled the ability to share viral content. Now TikTok does that really well. But ironically, Facebook and YouTube have decreased sharing importance and increased engagement importance.
Yeah.
So if someone
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
Advertising dollars.
Yeah. Turns out they don't like it when you hack their system to make tens of millions of dollars without paying them. And so, I mean, TikTok will go through the same thing. Right now, it's very organic, viral. It won't be in a year. It'll start being
for consumers and just be optimized for advertisers.
Exactly, because that's where they'll make all their money. So
this video that you and your buddy did, was the Fruit Ninja one?
So the very first
Fruit
one was
Ninja
the
in real
kitten air.
Oh, kitten air.
Yeah, it was throwing kittens.
Just throwing kittens
in the air to dubstep.
And no kitties were hurt.
No kittens were hurt. They were literally like 5 inches off the blanket. But we shot it in a way that made it look like they were flying through the sky.
And to dubstep.
Yeah,
awesome.
to dubstep song that Scott and then our friend Brendan, by the way, made.
And is that the one that J.J. Abrams saw?
That's the one that J.J. Abrams retweeted. And then we did Fruit Ninja later that year. And so it was just kind of like we just kept doing things. And what I've learned, and Jonah Berger wrote a great book called Contagious that goes through some of this. But what we learned is really virality is almost always rooted in unexpectedness. Like people are always looking for something new and unexpected. And that's what usually goes viral. So what's so hard about virality and why it's such an interesting combination of science and like intuition, kind of good taste, is it's hard to know what people won't expect. But that is the true nature of virality, is anytime we are like, oh man, I wouldn't expect someone to do that. So that's why virality is so hard. It's also why I think disruption is so hard, because they're both rooted in the same idea, which is go against the grain. But the second that everyone else starts doing it, now it's not against the grain. So you really got to be.
The tough part of that too is you can be so out there, so against the grain that nobody's interested. Right. So it's not just because you could probably create an easy formula about something that's like so counter culture, or so counter trend or whatever, but that could just be like lame, that nobody cares about at all.
And you see this all the time. I remember it was shortly after, I think we did Fruit Ninja, or maybe it was after. No, it was actually, so I helped with some things on Squatty Potty, like just consulted with the Harmon brothers. And I noticed after that came out, Rob Dyrdek from Rob and Big, and the skateboarder, he did like a video for a company, and it was
and
like,
for the kids these days, it's ridiculousness.
Yes, the guy who hosts Ridiculousness. Way back in the day,
like Rob and Big.
But he did this video trying to advertise a company. I think he was an investor or something, and it was like a similar kind of Squatty Potty knockoff, or no, it was a poopery knockoff. And it was Big dressed up as a giant poop, like sliding down a slide into a pool full of poop. And it was just like disgusting.
Oh gosh.
And it didn't do well. And it was interesting to me that it was like,
YouTube?
I'm sure you can look it up.
Okay.
It's Robin Big's like poop advertisement.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, I think, to that example of like Squatty Potty was really brilliant, and I think the Harmons did a brilliant job because they realized like, hey, here's this thing no one wants to talk about, so how do we make it still a little cringy, but not like super cringy? And I was like, well, let's talk about it through a unicorn and ice cream. And this idea that unicorns poop ice cream. And so
something
it took
that
this
my
very,
mom,
like,
who's on the conservative side of the spectrum, I'd say, would still laugh at, possibly even share. Not widely, but like within her close circle. But and she'd still chuckle at it and think it was funny. Whereas, I think the poop, that's just sliding into a big pile of poo, she's
like, oh, that's too much. And so that's one of the things I think that's hard is you see this with Hollywood directors. Like they'll make something that's like so shocking, so different, and it's like it's not palatable. And so, and that's why I think where a lot of that intuition comes with disruption is like we noticed this with PillowCube, and this is skipping ahead a little bit, but with PillowCube, it was like, we want to do something that's different than any brand out there, but we don't want to get to the point where we're a medical pillow that if you have on your bed and you had a girl over for a date, it'd be like, what the heck is that? So it's trying to find that balance. Yes. They're like, ooh, you have a CPAP. That's why you don't get a CPAP till you're married.
And even then,
it's pretty
it
difficult.
Doesn't do wonders. So I just snore. I just snore.
I'll just not breathe.
My wife punches me in the middle of the night, but
that's how it is.
That's how it is. Okay, so creatively, you've done a couple of viral videos. You're like, hey, I want to apply this back to business. I want to help other businesses. So I'm going to make this agency. We're going to do this official. Right? So you started doing it officially under the Creatively banner and had some big successes. Let's give a shout out to a couple of the ones that are your favorites, right?
Yeah. So Manly Bands, I think, is a great one here in Utah. Outlet.
Which is, rings, but we're made of like silicone and other stuff, right?
Yeah, like crazy dinosaur bone, meteorite.
Like unique materials, I guess we should say. Right?
Yeah.
Not your traditional, just like gold, silver, whatever. And then...
Owlet
Owlet
was another great one.
In fact, I got to get Kurt. Kurt, if you're listening to this, I still want to get you on the podcast. They just hit a huge milestone.
Yeah, got FDA approval.
Approved. So super cool for them. Got to get that whole story. Want to get on the podcast. So Owlet, which is the baby monitor. I had one for both of my infants.
Yeah.
The little sock that they wore, and it kind of told us like their heart rate and gave us any kind of breathing alerts if they were having any issues or something. It was kind of cool. Not kind of cool, super cool.
Yeah,
really
it's amazing
cool
technology.
So you did a video for them, and then
did a bunch of videos for them.
Yeah.
Clean Cult out of New York.
Clean Cult, which is sustainable, kind of earth-friendly cleaning products.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. They just brought in Walmart as an investor, so that was pretty awesome. So yeah, like we've done launched
Thread
Gab
wallets, right?
Yeah, Thread wallets.
Thread wallets. I remember that's my introduction to Thread wallets was the video that you guys did, which was really cool. Had the founders on, Colby and Mackenzie, and like a cool. They're founder story. Right?
Yeah,
it was kind of cool to see them. And then, I mean, the list goes on, but there's some really, really cool ways. And so you had this kind of repeated, consistent success with all of these things. And I remember in the middle of all this, and you and I have talked about this a couple of times during that, but people used to talk about viral video as it's this mystery and it's just pure luck.
Yeah.
And, there's not a way to repeat that. And obviously can't make certain guarantees. But what was fascinating to me and so cool about what you guys did and are still doing at Creatively is this, you keep having these repetitive successes where you get these videos to hit millions or tens of millions of views. In fact, were we talking about this or did I see this on your website or something? Like how many billions of collective views have you guys hit? I mean, it's billions and billions of views.
PillowCube's almost over 1 billion
just by
views.
itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's crazy. Yeah. Like you figured out this formula, if you will, magic formula to help brands get the visibility, the traction, the word of mouth. And that's where it becomes evangelical, right? It's not, the brand is not talking about themselves. It's people, word on the street. Hey, this is cool. Hey, did you see this? And people are sharing it with each other. And that's the most powerful way to sell consumer products for sure, right? Is the word of mouth, referrals from friends, recommendations from friends, and it's coming through these channels of trust that people are like, oh my gosh, this is cool. This is really amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's what's super interesting is I think it's there is like it's definitely more than luck. And I think that's what's really interesting about it is there is a science to it. And usually and not even usually, like every time we have something that doesn't work, I'm like, oh, I knew it wasn't going to work for this reason. And we have a model that we've built out. And anytime one of those pieces is missing, it's easy to kind of, it'll be fine. Like, we'll figure it out. And it's like, no, it wasn't.
So this is going to feel scripted, but it's not. That was impromptu. But it's beautiful because I was just about to lead us to, okay, this is not one of those podcasts where we just do rah, like everything's awesome. This is really, this podcast, the whole purpose of this brand, Sweat and Tears concept is let's get real.
Yeah.
Let's get vulnerable. Let's talk about reality. So talk about some of the epic fails. Talk about like stuff that just fell flat and why. Like, what did you guys learn from that? What makes something bomb? Compared to the stuff that was successful.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's been really good. So I had that experience with Creatively of like scaling stuff up, getting it a lot of attention. I think one of the things I've learned the most from starting my own brands that then leverage Creatively is that's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stuff like you hit a point where growth is not just increasing spend, right? Like you start to hit these points where you're like, there's a lot of other factors. So I think one of those examples is like we launched a kids pillow that did really well out the gate on Kickstarter.
This is PillowCube.
PillowCube.
So creatively, then you guys actually decided to start your own product.
Yeah.
PillowCube.
Yep.
Awesome pillow for side sleepers.
Yeah.
And then there's this kids one called the PillowCub.
Yep.
And
it was, we did $100,000 on Kickstarter without spending a ton of money.
You're thinking, okay, another
This is
hit.
great. This is going to be amazing. And then we went to source the product, and the sourcing guys that on our team who were doing the sourcing just didn't get a good price. There's some reasons why. We found out later why we didn't get a good price. But we then had to charge like $60, $70 for this pillow, and no one wanted to pay that.
Even though they were paying over $100 for the PillowCube, like the big pillow, the adult pillow, right?
Yep. People just like kids are pretty easy sleepers.
They'll fall asleep on a hard floor.
Yes. And so all of a sudden, parents are just not doing it. We have all these PillowCubs and we can't sell them. And so that was a lesson for us of like, hey, you can have the best marketing in the world, but if things aren't if all the other pieces aren't there, like you're not going to be able to scale and grow. And so we just had to learn that the hard way of.
So the video marketing for PillowCubs was
great,
doing fantastic.
Yeah, it was great CPMs.
But logistically, you weren't profitable. You could sell. Well, you weren't selling.
We'd lose money,
but you'd lose money
because the number of people who would come through on the video wouldn't convert high enough to actually be profitable. And so I think that's one of the things I've learned. And then there's also things where, I've had to learn hard lessons with PillowCube as well about like the adoption curve. That like your early adopters are always going to be willing to pay more because they feel the pain really acutely, and that's why they care. That's why when you market to them, then you get to the masses, and the masses are like, I don't want to pay that. I don't feel that pain that intensely.
There's a million pillows out there.
Yeah,
whatever.
And so that's another thing that we finally had to shift. And so I think that's one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn is that you can have all the viral videos in the world. There's still a lot of stuff you got to figure out.
Yeah.
And that's why running companies is hard.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I think almost every experienced entrepreneur I met, this, there aren't any silver bullets.
No.
But young entrepreneurs are looking for silver bullets.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, what's the one thing I can do to get this? And it's like, well, I can give you that thing. I can give you a ton of awareness.
Yeah. But that's not going to
might actually cause more problems than you think. One of the early examples of this in kind of Creatively history was right after Creatively started, we got a client who's doing a product very similar actually to Gab, who came later. We launched Gab.
Yeah.
Did all the initial marketing for Gab, and that was really fun. But
and for listeners out there, Gab is the safe phone
for kids.
Kids, so they have their own hardware. I mean, they outsource the manufacturing, but it's not like an iPhone. It's not a Samsung. It's like they have their own unique hardware, their own software.
They have their own watches,
and it's safe for kids. Kind of, it has like phone calls, texting, whatever. Right.
Yeah. All my girls use it.
Unique,
They don't always love me for launch for helping
Kids
launch
don't
that.
Love it, but the people who are paying the bills
love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
so there was one before Gab that you guys were working with.
So even like a couple of years before Gab, we were working with this company that did an app that you installed on your iPhone, and then your kids' phones would attach to that app. And it would let you monitor what they're saying, what they're texting, who they're calling, what apps they're using.
Kind of control things.
Yeah. Really like monitor it. And it was really cool. Like it was like, man, this is amazing. And so we started testing and we're like, hey, there's some things that need to be fixed. You need to do a rebrand. You need to do all these things. And they were like, yeah, great. We'll work on that. We'll get all that done. And so we started working on the marketing. And honestly, it's like one of my favorite Creatively campaigns. Like it's hilarious. Tons of funny jokes. Like if people want to go look at a really funny video.
Is it on your website? I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so where would they find it?
You can probably just YouTube it. I think it's still on YouTube. It's called Web Safety.
Okay.
But it's hilarious. Like we had jokes about Bill Cosby in there, and like there's lots of things there's lots of things we used to think were safe, but now realized are not, like lawn darts and Bill Cosby. And then the dad is about to take a drink out of a drink, and the mom's like, don't drink that.
Yeah.
Just like great. Like it was so funny.
Yeah.
And it was such a great piece, but the product wasn't there. And we kept saying like, hey, you got to fix these things. You got to get these things going. And he's like, yeah, I'm working on it. And then we get the video done, and it's like, we should launch this, but you're not ready. And he's like, let's just launch it, and then we'll like we're almost there. We're 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So we launch it, get tons of views, tons of people talking about it, tons of sharing, and it just tanked the company. Like reviews on App Store went from like 5-star to 1-star overnight.
Wow.
Hundreds of 1-star reviews saying this sucks. It's too expensive. So
that's the downside of getting a ton of attention if the other pieces of the puzzle aren't quite there yet, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy, like you said, for an entrepreneur to think, I just need a ton of attention, but you kind of got to be ready for the attention because it can be good, or a ton of attention can be tough or bad. Like, I mean, people say there's no such thing as bad press, there's no such thing as bad publicity, but
not really
in
true.
this particular case, they weren't quite ready for that.
And that's something we think about a lot. I mean, that in particular, that example helped influence, like when we were talking to people like, are you ready for this? I would even argue that like PillowCube got more attention than it was ready for because we just didn't have the SKUs to support. Now that's okay because we've kind of caught up quickly and we've followed that. But there was a lot of times where it was like, man, we have so many views on this thing and people are like, I need a cheaper version. I want, these other solutions. I want, and that takes time. Yeah. It's not easy to launch 50 new products. And so yeah, like even going back to PillowCubs, like we've now fixed PillowCubs and it's doing great. Yeah. So, but there's this belief, and this is where what we sometimes see is like, because we're so good at marketing, which we are, like we're really good marketers. We know what we're doing. Often other people on the team think that we can market anything. Yeah. Or even clients. They're like, you could market anything. And anytime someone says that, I stop them. I'm like, I really can't market anything. Yeah. I can't market crap. Yeah. If it's crappy, it's eventually going to come back. And so that's one. And when you look at, I go back to a lot of first principles. It's still a demand and supply curve. Yeah. You raise price a ton, demand goes down, and you just don't have as much demand. Yeah. And so, that's one of the things we've learned working with Walmart is they're like, here, let us show you data of the difference in volume between something we charge $10 for and something we charge $20 for. Now, different categories margins. Are different things, and there's different margins. And
it doesn't matter if you sell a billion things for $10 if you can't make money on that, right? Yes. So you still have to play, like, you have to be aware of the margins, volumes.
You got to know your unit economics.
And sometimes people very intentionally, brands, and I'll have a bunch of guests on the podcast that I've got lined up that are intentionally extremely highly priced. Yeah. And it's not just about their cost plus a margin, like their intent, that's part of their brand, it's part of their intention to be the most expensive thing in their category, and that's part of that's part of that strategy. Yeah. Right? And so we'll talk about that in different episodes. But to come back, it's like, you guys don't market anything. You've actually developed this process, the 6 Ds. I mean, we kind of talked about that in actually the in the Creatively interview that I think people will see in other formats and stuff. Yeah. But you've created this formula, a process. It's not just all about the creative stuff, which is super fun, but you're actually very scientific and methodical about, if this product is going to be successful, it needs to fit these 6, aspects or these 6 criteria, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so we look at it.
You kind of formulated that 6 Ds the hard way, right? By figuring out like why isn't this thing working? And okay, well, it didn't have this, and then you fix that, and then the next time it's like, okay, this is we plugged that hole or fixed that problem.
No, exactly. And I think that's the challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs is it's easy to get into this. If I have a viral video, I can charge more than people are willing to pay. And it's like, you really can't. And I think exactly like you said, every business needs to look at it's not to say that everything should be cheap. Yeah. Either. Like we like things that usually on average are more expensive. Yeah. Like I would prefer to market something, especially in the early days, something that's higher priced. I think the natural tendency of entrepreneurs is, I'm just going to go undercut everyone. Yeah. And it's like, but you have a disruptive product that's better than what's currently available. Yeah. And you're going to charge less for it? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And so I'm not even proposing or recommending that people always go cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But it is important to understand.
You just have to have a really good idea and understanding of the unit economics and the supply and demand curve and where you intentionally need to be to make a profit and want to be, and because how that plays into your brand.
Yeah.
Are you a Walmart product, which isn't bad? Yep. Or are you a premium, exclusive boutique, maybe even like not even on Amazon, not even, it's like, it's kind of hard to get kind of a product. And there's a strategy behind that too.
And I think what's interesting is what I've learned through this process and owning our own brands is that 90% of the time when people don't have product market fit, it's because they don't know who buys, they don't know why they buy, what motivates them to buy, and they don't really understand this, whether their product solves the problem this person has or doesn't. And so that's what's so interesting is you get more and more into this and you start to realize like, no, that is the key thing. It's very rarely, like some ambiguous. I think people are always like, we don't have product market fit yet. And it's like this vague, like, oh, I don't know why. And it's like, well, talk to people.
Yeah.
Like when we talked to parents, it was like, look, I just don't want to spend $70 to $100 on my kid's pillow.
Yeah.
And as you talk to even very
I'll spend
wealthy
that on
people,
my pillow.
yes,
But for my kids,
they're
and it's
fine.
not like I'm a bad parent. It's just that they literally can sleep.
Yeah.
They're not need
old.
it, or
They're not.
their bodies are rubber.
Yes.
They bounce off the floor.
Yep.
They can wad up in a knot and sleep in their laundry basket. They don't need a decent or an awesome pillow.
So you get a kid who maybe has like a more rare kind of situation, and the parent's willing to pay to solve that problem because it's like maybe they have scoliosis.
In that case, you might be willing to spend thousands on a pillow if it solved that problem. Yeah.
But for your average parent, and so that's what's funny to me as I go back to, I think being an entrepreneur, so often we way overcomplicate it and we just avoid the simple but hard questions of, do people want to pay for this?
Okay, but I want to play devil's advocate
it?
with you.
Okay.
Because this is such a hard topic. I think, especially in consumer goods, this concept of product market fit, because I've personally experienced, and I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who've actually taken the time to have conversations with people. You talk to people, you get feedback, and not just friends and family. Like, I've even spent time like literally in a shopping mall, on a street corner, talking to just passersby, asking them questions to try and get, understanding about a product idea that I was working on. And the hardest part about this whole equation is people will tell you something, not they're lying, they're not trying to be nice. That's genuinely what they think they would like or they think they would do. But when they actually get the physical product, they act completely differently. Or some whole new thing comes in. So it might even be related to like touch, taste, feel, smell, like all these other senses. So like hypothetically, somebody might really like your idea, even, complete stranger. But then it's even this whole other level of like, once they've actually got it or used it, or somebody might love the idea of sleeping on the PillowCube. Yeah. But until they actually try it and have slept on it, not even just one night, but like for 30 nights in a row, maybe they don't like it. Yeah. Or maybe they thought, who cares? Like I can sleep on any pillow. And then conversely, like after sleeping on it for 30 nights, they're like, oh my gosh, this changed my life. Yeah. So when you're talking to other entrepreneurs and you're talking about this product market fit, and they're like, well, I think I know, I mean, at least I've had some conversations, like, how do you help them like really figure out, and how does a creator really get to product market fit in a consumer product space? Yeah. I mean, kind of have to experiment a little bit. Yeah. Figure out how to get your real product or the closest prototype you can into certain people's hands so that they can try it out. Right? Yeah. Now this leads into like this other cool thing that you guys discovered with the PillowCube. Yeah. Right. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So there's several things that I would say if someone came to me and said, "Hey, I'm struggling to."
I think
yeah. I don't know,
this,
but like,
I don't know.
But when I go to market it, no one buys it, or when I go to sell it people say they love it and then they won't pay for it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple really good principles. One of those principles that I learned early on with PillowCube was asking the right questions. And I think in general, entrepreneurs almost always ask the wrong questions.
Leading questions for confirmation bias.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're trying to get them to tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get them to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And so I kind of lucked into, in many ways, this system of how I do that. So the first thing that I do is as quickly as possible, I try and create consumer goods is way easier than software, but now software is getting easier too. You can have AI build you something or build something in Airtable that gets you like kind of pretty darn close.
Yeah, functionally close to what the end result.
Even what is the one that now does interactive beta products? The design, it's not Figma. It may be Figma.
Yeah,
Figma and some of those other ones. Like you can design it and then people can click
Adobe
through
even
it.
has kind of a version of that. It works with Figma. There's Sketch. There's and then there's a bunch of no code kind of builders like Adalo and other platforms where you can, like no code, you can kind of whip together a working prototype of an app.
Yes.
That even has like a mini database behind it.
Yep. So it's become so much easier. So we kind of lucked into this idea where like I had gotten these 2 pieces of foam from a potential client. I'd laid on it. It was, they were each 12 by 12 by 3. I put 2 of them together, laid down. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the pillow I've been dreaming of my whole life.
Yeah.
So I spray glued those together. I hired a seamstress I paid her $50 or $100 to make us a cover. And then I just started showing it to friends.
So it's fugly. It's not.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't perfect,
but it's like this
you
is
kind
the
of feel
foam.
that there's
This is the material
glue in it. Yeah,
like
yeah.
If this is even close, then we could refine it a little bit. But like we're seeing, like, does this kind of this whole idea of a squarish pillow that keeps your neck like at the perfect level, your spine kind of aligned.
Yep.
So you give it to how many did you make?
So I made 1.
Oh, just 1
to begin with.
Okay.
And I just started showing it to people, and I didn't ask them, "Do you like it?"
Yeah.
I just would ask them more experiential, like, "How does that feel? Does that relieve the pressure? Is it high enough? Is it short enough?"
Yeah.
Because I kind of assumed, hey, this isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And I want to make you feel comfortable giving me feedback.
Yeah.
And a lot of
so
people
huge.
were like,
I want to pause on that for a second and highlight that because there is a massive, massive, massive distinction in feedback from do you like it?
Yeah.
Which 9 out of 10 people are going to say yes just to be nice.
Yes.
People mostly don't want to be jerks or be rude or hurt your feelings. So they're going to say, yes, I like it.
Yeah.
But even like it is this
very
massive
broad
range of like,
yes.
well, what does that even mean? Do you like it? Like, would you pay a certain amount of money for it? Do you like it? Like, you would actually want this as your pillow, right? So, like it isn't a good question to that point.
Yep. Do you like it? Did you
questions
enjoy
you were
it?
asking were, how does it make you feel? What other kind of
so like the things I think another one that's really important to avoid, and this probably goes against every business professor at every business school. I never ask people if they would buy it.
Okay.
Because it's a dumb question. I instead will ask, will you buy it right now? Will you give me $100 right now?
Yeah.
If you're going to ask that, then ask that.
You got to be
But don't
very
say,
specific.
like, willingness to buy surveys are such BS.
Yeah.
Like, it's nonsense because they're not pulling out the card.
Yeah. Which actually is the beauty of Kickstarter.
Yeah.
In that it's like, give us your credit card, commit to $95 or whatever right now.
And once
way in advance of actually getting this product.
Yeah,
so that's kind of the litmus test of
totally.
Like, are people willing to put their credit card
People
in?
stopped using Kickstarter in that way. They started using Kickstarter as a pre-order system and not as a way to test
like discovery.
Truly, will people talk? The great poet Jay-Z once said,
the great
money talks, so talk more bucks. And I think that's like the key thing, like money talks. So when you're asking people if they are willing to buy it, they better be able to pull out a credit card right that second and buy it.
Yeah.
So I never ask about money.
Otherwise, it's a waste of time to ask.
Yes. Like, oh, would you pay for this? How much would you be willing to pay?
Yeah.
Because also consumers don't understand COGS and marketing costs. Like when we tell people the pillow costs $70, they're like, how? This couldn't cost more than $10. You're like, well, it does cost more than $10 because you're not actually a very good person at understanding COGS of a consumer product. You're a consumer. You're not a operations supply chain expert.
Yeah.
like one of the things people are shocked about, like if you just went and wanted to buy off the shelf one block of our foam, it'd probably be about $300 for that block of foam. That's the level of foam we're using, but it's because we buy
massive scale,
tens of thousands of those blocks every month.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference.
Yeah.
So like I think that's one of the things I don't ask. The things I do ask is, how does that feel on your neck? Is that the right high? Is it too high? Is it too low? I'm going for very specific, like, hey, here are things I'm worried are either working or not working, and I want to figure out those things. And I think that's one of my bigger principles is anytime someone comes and says I'm struggling, I'm always going back to first principles of like, where are you struggling?
Yeah.
Are you struggling with grabbing people's attention? That's usually an issue of it's costing you a lot of money. Your CPMs are really high. That means that people are either not interested in your product or not. Your content isn't doing a good job.
Isn't interesting enough.
And so I try and drill down to like, so what's the real issue here? Sometimes people come and say, like one of the most common ones I get, if I go to a flea market or farmer's market, I sell my product like crazy. If I sell it in person, I sell it like crazy. But as soon as I try to market it to the masses where I can't have an individual conversation with them, then it doesn't work. And that's actually literally the problem that Creatively solves, because that's a disruptive product problem.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a disruptive product, you usually need 5 minutes to pitch it.
Yeah.
And so when you can pitch it in person as the founder and people will buy, the problem is we need to replicate you as a founder. That's why we often do founder stories.
And that's where the long form video,
works
which
great.
was like hated on for a while or whatever, actually works great. And you can have really bad long form video. But if you do it right, it replicates that, like, I'm almost in person with you selling this product.
It's also why most people think that we want to be funny just to be funny. It's like, no, we want to be funny so we keep their attention for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And if we can keep their attention for 5 minutes, we can pitch your product.
And
for
the
5
funny
minutes.
is the thing that also makes it shareable.
Yeah.
Because you might share it with someone, not because you're like, oh, they need this pillow. It's just, dude, this is hilarious. And so you get that extra, like it spreads it as far as possible just because it's fun. It's worth watching even if you weren't necessarily going to buy a pillow.
Statistically, according to studies, the most shared but least watched videos are charity videos that tug at the heartstrings. So if you want to look at so when people say, why don't we do something emotional that makes people cry? Like, well, because everyone will share it and no one will watch it.
No one will do it. Yeah.
And when you're advertising, not watching the ad is kind of a big deal. That's not a great thing if no one watches the ad and learns from the ad what you do and why it matters to them. So that's why we use humor, because humor gets people to pay attention because they're waiting for the next joke. It's giving them, some positive feedback. So those are the things that, so kind of first thing I want to know is like, hey, what's working, what's not working? That's another great question. Like, as you try this product, what's working for you and what's not working for you?
Yeah.
I don't like the smell. I don't, that's just an easy way to go. So that's kind of first is like, how are people feeling? Another key thing I look for is like grouping across, or, when you go shooting, you're always looking for grouping. Like, it's more important to be grouped than it is to be bullseye. Yeah. Because you're getting it
consistency.
Close.
Yeah.
So same thing when I talk to consumers, I'm like, hey, is there this grouping? Like one person can say, this is the worst pillow I've ever tried. It's so stupid, so dumb. Okay, but I surveyed 100 people and 97 of them said it was the best pillow they've ever tried. Now they still might have feedback and tweaks, but I'm not going to listen to that one person.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things I think about running a business is you hit a point where you just have to stop caring as much about some of those individual statistics.
Yeah.
You can have someone who says, your customer service sucks, I hate you guys, you're the worst. But when you go into the data and you're like, hey, our average response on a first time reach out is 2 hours. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
We're resolving 95% of tickets within 6 hours. That's also pretty great. I don't know a lot of people who are resolving that many things same day.
Yeah. So the outliers, you can't let the outliers kind of get you down or make you upset.
But it's still good
data. But if there's
data.
any kind of pattern, then you really got to start paying attention to it.
Yeah. And that's where we found, just by talking to consumers, having that space, that's where we found a lot of product ideas too. where people say, man, this is so great, but
What
you know how to
if?
make this better?
Yeah. Could you do this?
Could you do this? Could
Yeah.
you do this? We still do that all the time. And just by being willing to listen
Yeah.
and kind of opening the gate of like, hey, I don't think this is perfect and this isn't done. And I'm still
Well,
open
to that
to new
point,
ideas.
PillowCube is on version 2.0.
Yeah.
The first one was a perfect square.
Yeah.
Now there's a rectangle, longer one. And
Yeah.
did you even do like different heights or something?
Different heights.
Yeah. So you did
And
this
even-
one, it was amazing. But then people are like, but could it be, could it be longer? Could it
Yeah.
be more rectangular than square? Could it be, what about slightly different, neck heights or
Yeah.
heights or whatever?
And even then, you look at each of those individual pillows, we're on version like 400 because we've tweaked foam and box and packaging and everything.
Yeah.
And that's when you just take in that mentality. I think that's the key thing. And that's also why I'm not afraid. Like when PillowCubs didn't do as well, a lot of people at PillowCube or at Creatively were like, we should just kill it.
Yeah.
Let's be done. This sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's taking data and we're not diving into the data again. We're not looking at like, what are people saying is not great about this?
Yeah.
Let's solve those problems. We finally did.
You did.
Launched
So
a
here's
lower
the question:
product.
is the feedback might have said there isn't a market for pillows for kids that are whatever, but you had enough data to say it's not that they don't like the product. It really was about the price point.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you got a couple other pieces of feedback, but there was enough there to say no. We've got something here.
Yes.
We just need to tweak it. We need to make sure we got to source it better, make it cheaper. There's a certain price point here that people really like this and buy this.
And I think that's the thing is like you need to know as an entrepreneur when to do broad stroke things and when to do fine strokes. Like PillowCubs, I looked at it and said, okay, we got $100,000 right out the gate.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to go talk to those people and like, what's missing? And so we learned a lot of things. People were like, hey, it's bigger than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, great. That will help me reduce cost.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, it's 12 by 12. Honestly, it could be 10 by 10.
Yeah.
10 by 10 would be great. So I was like, oh, awesome. Okay, let's move it to 10 by 10. Thickness was good. People liked the thickness. There were some things that were more expensive that people were asking to take away. They were like, hey, this fur is really like shaggy.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think it'd be better this like, lower pile. And you're like, again, cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's where it's often asking, I think a lot of times people don't talk to their customers and find out like, is the thing I'm paying extra for driving value for you?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it driving a negative value?
Yeah.
So these things that we had upgraded to.
Or I was emotionally attached to it. Like I wanted this really fine fur on there, but guess what? Nobody cares.
Nobody cared.
Yeah.
And what we found the number one driver on Kids Pillow is the parent needs to be willing to pay for it,
mm-hmm.
and the kid has to want it.
Yeah.
And so the kids, we nailed that.
Really, kids aren't thinking about like, does my neck hurt in the morning? As much as like old people like me are. They're just like, is this cool? So
and that part we had nailed from day one. It was the characters.
Some of that. They're like, this is cool.
Because we had some people on the team who was like, let's just make a smaller kids pillow.
Yeah.
Like the exact same as PillowCube. Let's not do a character. And I was like, but that's what drives the kid to want it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing so that's another piece of that puzzle. So I kind of like ask those questions. I try and go deep as possible to like, what's that core problem? Is that really the problem, or is there something behind it?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I kind of lucked into, so we made that one sample.
Yeah, here we go.
Shared
this
it
is my
with
favorite
tons of
part of the
people.
story right here.
And then I made 20 samples.
Yeah.
They weren't glued in the middle. They were better samples. They'd been improved. I gave out those 20 samples to friends and family. And then I was trying to think, I don't want to test price yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know if they want it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to not have it. I'm going to ask them to give it back. I want that back.
Yeah.
And I didn't really need it back, but I wanted to ask them. So I called all of them up.
Test. It's such an
easy test. And so I gave them all the solution to their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, hey, I need that solution back.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't give it back.
Yeah.
They were like lying to me, giving excuses. Oh, can I give it to you in a week?
Yeah.
I just need it for one more week. And I was like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about money yet. We're not talking about any of those things. We'll figure all that stuff out down the road.
Yeah.
But what I need to know right now is like, do people want it enough that they don't want to give it back, give it up?
Yeah.
And that's a really important test.
Yeah.
And we've applied that in so many other things where, like when we first saw StairSlide and we became the first investor in that, I took it home and my kids wouldn't stop playing with it. You know, I had another person who gave me a toy the other day and I took it home and my kids wouldn't stop playing with it all weekend. Yeah. Now, there's a ton of other business things to ask.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it patented? Is it, you know, do they have the unique ability to make this? Would I have been willing to pay for that toy as a parent? Yeah. Like if that toy was $5,000, even if they played with it every day, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other things to figure out, but that's again goes back to like find out one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. So if no one's going to your website from the content, there's something either wrong with the content or the way you're pitching the problem and the solution. Your call to action might be weak. But let's not start changing the price because they don't even know the price. Mm-hmm. We didn't say the price in the ad. But I'm amazed how many times I see entrepreneurs doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the ad's not working. No one's going to the website. Let's lower our price. Well, they don't even know what the price is.
Yeah.
That's obviously not the issue. Yeah. Right now, let's first see if we can fix this problem. Then once we fix that and more people are going to the website.
If tons of people are going and maybe putting in their cart and bailing, okay, maybe price is the thing.
And that's, I think, a key thing as an entrepreneur. When you're looking at all these statistics that you're given, we're given all this data now. Mm-hmm. Like as a consumer company, Shopify gives us so much data.
Yeah.
The question is to know, what does that data connect to? Conversion rate connects to what? Mm-hmm. Price, website functionality, kind of the two major things. Yeah. Like if people aren't converting, either the website doesn't do a good job of selling the product, your price is wrong.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's not a silver bullet. So it's all these things that you're kind of turning dials and seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the key thing. But I learned that lesson. Like first thing I want to know when I'm starting a business or buying a business is like, do people want the product? When I give it to them, do they not want to give it back?
Yeah.
Then I go to a testing price.
Yeah.
And I usually do that through a Kickstarter or just like I've gone to the mall before and just stopped a person and been like, hey, have you heard about this product?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Are you interested? Yes, I'm interested. Okay, well, you pay $100 right now. Like I have a credit card machine. I can swipe it right now.
Yeah.
And people are like, no.
Yeah. Even if that was fake.
Yeah.
Even if you were like, I got this, and you just have this like non-working thing, this terminal. But
throw
to
a square on your
you're
phone.
Just like, okay, I can swipe it right now. Would you pay $100 for this right now? Yes. Even if then they're like, they have to make that decision. That's huge. Right?
Yeah. That's what's great about Kickstarter.
And it's cool. It's such a cool topic. It's such a cool thing to think about because I think about all the products that I've bought recently. And if someone said, give that to me back, there are a couple that I might, I might consider like, okay, but there's a bunch that I'm like, no, absolutely not. And I'm happy to give them shout outs. Like I've got both Mission belts and Grip 6, which I love both of those. They're kind of unique, but they're different belts. But if someone said, give those belts back and just go back to the good old, metal clasp belt or whatever, I'd be like, no way.
Yeah.
You can't pry these out of my cold dead, fingers or whatever, right? Like,
dude, I have this wallet on my phone called a Moft. It's the same thing.
Somebody's like, give it back. You'd be like, no.
It attaches with a magnet. Your
That's
phone
a
can stand up.
Are we getting this on video? It's out of screen. There we go.
So you have a stand, and I'm like, it broke the other day, just like disconnected.
Yeah.
And I was using another wallet from a company I actually really love. And I was like, I need that thing back right now.
Yeah.
And so I super glued it back together because I've used it so much.
Yeah. And Thread wallets, to that point. Thread wallets, same thing. Like I'm not going back to my huge fat
my wife
wallet.
And kids cannot live
Ridge wallets. I've got both Thread and Ridge, and I love them both. And it's the same thing. If you ask me to like give up those wallets and go back to like a big fat, trifle, I'd be like, no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. In fact, I use them uniquely. The Thread is my minimalist when I'm doing something where I just got to have like one credit card, cash, whatever. And Ridge is like my bigger, like full wallet that has everything in it. And I use them both, but I want them both, and I wouldn't give up either one of them. Anyway, we could go down that path. But I love this idea of, would you give it back to see if people are like, no way, I'm not giving
it back. And that also tells you like return rates. Like PillowCube has a return rate that's 4 times lower than the industry average. That really helps us financially.
Yeah.
Because most people, once they try it, they're like, man, I can't imagine sleeping any other way.
Back. Yeah.
So I think that's like a key thing. And then I go to, the price test, get people, like you said, it could even be fake. You could design a website.
But you have to get them really to the point. Again, it's like, not would you buy this? Theoretically, hypothetically,
yes.
Would you pay $100 for this right now? Give me your card.
And if they start to pull their card out and you say,
like, JK, that's awesome.
I'm just kidding. It actually isn't live yet. And then it'd be
better if they're like pissed that they can't buy it there.
They're like, dang it, I was totally going to buy it.
You suck.
And that's where Kickstarter is great. It's great to know that there were 500 people who were like, and sometimes we have products, like we have a product that we did a Kickstarter for. It funded successfully, and some of the executive team really doesn't like it. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, hey, let's look at the data.
Yeah.
We had hundreds and hundreds of people who backed it. And then right before, the day before the Kickstarter funded and everyone's money was locked in, all of our friends and family canceled that we had begged to help get the machine going.
Yeah.
And then hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of strangers did not cancel. What does that tell us? Well, it tells me our friends and family did it because they love us and we asked them to.
Yeah.
But those hundreds of strangers that I don't know did it because they want the product.
Yeah.
And that's a super important test.
Yeah.
Like, we should not dismiss that, because there's 400, 500 people there who were willing to pay for it and kind of like, well, we'll get it to you sometime in the next year.
Yeah.
And it's hundreds of dollars for this one product.
Yeah.
That's a really good test to know, okay, we're onto something.
Yeah.
And so,
do you want to talk about that product? Do you want to name it?
Oh, yeah, it's the Dream Machine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was something that I think it's for people who are really obsessed with sleep. Now, there's still a lot of stuff to figure out. How big is that market? Can we eventually move to the masses? All that stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out down the road.
Yeah.
Right now, we just need to create something that people are super excited about.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's hard for people.
But that one has been tougher, to be fair, than the
totally.
PillowCube, right?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about, again, going back to the theme, brand, sweat, tears, the difficulty, and you're onto something because enough people besides friends and family, like you said, have prepaid and they're waiting.
Yeah.
But you're still struggling to try and get it perfect, right? Or get it to where you think, hey, we can really blow this thing up.
Well, and this is what I think is hard, and this is what you have to recognize. If you are going to be an entrepreneur who disrupts, you need to get really used to being lonely.
Yeah.
In your beliefs. Because there are a lot of times where people are like...
Even people on your own team who've been through successes with you and they're still like, this sucks. I don't want to do it.
Who've seen you be right before when they thought you were wrong.
Yeah.
And then you proved to be right.
Yeah.
And so that's what's hard, is like every time you do something new, and I think that's something that naturally drives me. Like, people are kind of like, well, you've started an agency, but you know, running a brand is different. I'm like, well, then I'll start a brand.
Yeah.
And I start it, and I grew that brand faster than any of the clients ever grew their brands. And then it was like, yeah, but you've never, turned something around that you bought. And I bought something and turned it around. And now it's like, well, you haven't done tech. And I'm like, okay, then I'll prove that I can do tech. Like, I think that as an entrepreneur and as a disruptor, you need to kind of have that personality where you're okay with being alone in your beliefs. And then you're also okay with everyone kind of doubting you and being like, I don't know if you can pull it off. Because anytime you disrupt and do something crazy, most people are going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Most people are going to question you. I even talked to someone about that product the other day, and they're like, yeah, but there's similar things out there. And I'm like, no, but it's missing this key piece, and that piece is everything.
Yeah.
Like, that difference is not small.
Yeah.
And in their mind, they're like, I don't know, I think that's pretty similar. And you're like, well, one of us is going to be right, and I'm okay trying and doing it and eventually being wrong.
Yes. So this is This is such a fantastic conversation, I think, because this is the creator's curse, but also the difference between a real entrepreneur, a real creator, and someone who's not.
Yeah.
And I think that is that willingness to fail 99 times to get to the 100. But even more than that, I want to be clear about this. It's not even that you think it's the 100. It's the whole process of creating is enough of a motivation. It's enough of a drive that you're willing to be wrong 1,000 times if that's what it takes. In fact, ultimately, and this is the extreme, but like if you never succeed, you still would have done it for the whole process, the process of creating, the process of trying to bring an idea to life, going through that effort, going through the pain and the suffering, the sacrifice, the effort to bring something to life. That's what drives true creators. And the difference where people, separates the creators from the non-creators is the people who wanted to get the silver bullet, the people who wanted to just get the success, who just wanted the outcomes, but didn't appreciate or want the actual process of creation.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
It is really, really hard. And the society, media, whatever, tends to glom onto or attach to the success stories that are more like hitting the lottery in Vegas, like the lucky one out of 1,000, instead of thinking about the 999 stories where it was just failure after failure after failure after failure, and they kept trying and kept trying and kept trying, and we're just they kept that belief. Not that, and this is the tears part. Like this is a good place to kind of end. Is that it is an emotional roller coaster. I'm not saying that all creators are just like insanely resilient, like never feel like crap. I mean, you feel like crap on a daily basis. Yeah. But you still have a purpose and a passion for creating that helps you get right back up. You get knocked down, you get back up, you get knocked down, you get back up again, because the process of creating, you're driven to create, driven to bring something to life. And that's the motivation. And man, when you hit the accomplishment, or you get that success, it's got to feel pretty awesome. And you're looking at PillowCube in I don't know, do we talk numbers? Like,
I can say it always gets hard.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, investors get a little squirrely. I can say that
billions of dollars.
Oh yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
No,
but it's been phenomenally successful.
Yeah, like first year we did 4 million. Second year we did 30, just under 30.
Yeah. And growing from there, so we can kind of let people grow. Like imagine where those numbers are going. Yeah. But it's fantastic. So you're like, okay, this is amazing, But on the Dream Machine, you're not there yet. We're still early in the process and everything. But what I know about you is that it's more about, I'm creating this thing, I believe in it, and I've seen enough data to encourage me. I'm also not talking about. There is a crazy level of being a creator where you ignore everything, and they're in the face of data that's telling you otherwise, you still persist. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm not. Yeah. You got to listen to the data, and there is enough data after you've exhausted everything that might say, give up on this idea. Yeah. There is a time to quit. I want to say that, but you've got enough data with Dream Machine to say there's something here. Yeah. And for me, it's a part of like bringing this thing to life. It's a new challenge because there's tech involved, there's software involved, as well as just like the physical, mechanics, the machine itself. And the other thing is, if it works, it can positively change millions of people's lives. Yeah. That's the other thing too, is like, but what if? Yeah. What if it does work? What if it did work? It can positively impact millions of people. And that for me is kind of the thing. Yeah. Like, man, if I know this is a stretch, I know this is crazy, but if it works,
will change the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's
not to be cliche about it, but literally like make a difference in a lot of people's lives.
And that's the thing that drives me with PillowCube. Like the lesson I've learned through Creatively is that anytime someone comes and pitches me a product and says, I'm going to be so rich, or we're going to be so rich, I'm like, this is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
And we don't work with those people.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned is those people only care about money.
Yeah.
Anytime someone has an idea and says, I think this is going to be $1 billion idea, and that's the main thing they talk about is like, I've got this idea and it's going to make me so much money. It's like, you're going to hate entrepreneurship, because there are days where, like, I kind of notice like days are either really good days or really bad days. Like you kind of have bad days, and just kind of is just like one. Yeah, there really isn't. It's not like you have a lot of mediocre days.
Yeah.
You have amazing days where you're as high can get, and then days where you're as low can get.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, this person's suing us. Someone just got hurt using a pillow. Just thing after thing after thing. You're like, ugh,
yeah,
I can't do it. And then you have like great news the next day, and things turn around. And so you kind of learn as an entrepreneur, like, to kind of ride the middle.
Yeah.
Like, okay, when the highs are high, you kind of bring yourself back to earth, and
don't let yourself get too carried away.
Don't get too carried away.
Yeah.
Don't buy into your own hype. And then when you have low days, it's like, also don't buy into the haters.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's what really keeps driving me. Like the thing that drives me is when I talk to people who have used PillowCube and they're like, it legit has changed my life. Like, I haven't slept well in 20 years.
Yeah.
And this has improved my family, my relationships. And I'm like, it's just a pillow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel so grateful and so excited that like we're having an impact on people.
Yeah.
And it's the same
thing.
And
that's why you did it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like,
totally.
I'm gonna make $1 billion.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's I mean, people talk about it, but it is like you were solving your own problem too. And so there's even an aspect of creating of like, I don't care if no one else on the planet likes this thing.
Yeah.
Because if I solve my own problem, it'll make my life way better. And that's enough for me to try.
And that's fine.
Right.
No, totally. And I think that's what's interesting and unique, and why you have to go back to like, what is the reason I'm doing this? Like, what is my drive? And exactly like you said, like, I love creating products. I just love creating solutions to problems that people have. And I struggle with like trying to keep myself in check to not launch a new business every day. And so that's kind of where I struggle, but I love that process. I love the process. Like for me, PillowCubs, going back to that, has been really fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like this thing that often my team was even like, we should just kill this.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I see where this can go.
Yeah.
And now we're finally at a point where we've fixed it. We've changed it. We're getting huge retail opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's going to be something that's going to really impact. And even though kids are super pliable and, you know, they can sleep on anything, it really does make kids sleep better.
They should have a comfortable sleep.
Yeah.
Even if they should
have a good pillow.
If they're not demanding it, or if they're not, they should be comfortable, right?
I love, one of my favorite things to hear from parents is, you've said this to me, I got PillowCubs and my kids love them.
Yeah.
They play with them every day.
Yeah.
They take them everywhere they go.
Yeah.
It provides them comfort.
Yeah. And to your other point, my daughter, all she cares about that it's a sloth.
Yeah.
That it's cool.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't talk about like, oh, I slept so comfortably or not.
Yeah.
Like it's more like a toy for her.
Yes.
It's more like a plush, animal or
and
whatever.
It feels, and so there's this side benefit for parents of, hey, this actually does encourage better sleep positions.
Yeah.
And sleeping kind of ergonomics.
Yeah.
But the kids almost don't care.
Yeah.
Like they're just
it's
like,
her buddy.
Yeah.
She can't go to sleep without it because it's her little friend. It's more like, like a plush.
But that also makes me happy to know that there's kids out there. Like we're working on something as we relaunch these to get them to foster kids. So that they have something that, like, when they go to a new house, most foster kids show up to, and this is something my wife's been looking at and working on, but she found this statistic, like most kids, when they show up at a new foster home, show up with a trash bag.
Yeah.
And they have a couple things in a trash bag. And so she's been working on this idea of like, let's go give them like a welcome kit that has like this PillowCub that's just for them. And so like those things make me really excited.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're having this positive impact. We can use this to do good in the world. Davis Smith, I think, is a great example here in Utah of that. But like,
Cotopaxi for those. I mean,
yeah,
probably at this point, most everyone on the planet knows. Cotopaxi and Davis Smith,
and they do great things. But like, Thread, Colby and McKenzie, they're always doing stuff for people. Yeah. Stance is always like consumer companies. I think overall, most of the ones I interact with are thinking of how can we help people as well.
Yeah. And that's so cool. I mean, because it's tied into, if you're a creator for the right reasons, it ties into making people's lives better, doing stuff that positively impacts humanity, the planet, whatever. And so if you can be really profitable in your creating your product, it also allows you the ability to do all these really cool things. Like no money, no mission. So you got to have money to fund the causes that you want to really get behind, but then you can do some like really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what keeps me excited. And I think that's what, for anyone who's out there who's like, should I be an entrepreneur? It's like, you got to love that. You got to love, if you really want to be disruptive, you got to be very comfortable with, and I think that's something I've had to learn the hard way of like kind of everyone being like, maybe this will work.
Yeah.
And we've had people literally quit and say, I just don't think Jay's right.
Yeah.
I think he's nuts.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
I can't buy into this.
And then a year later, it's like, I was right.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'm like flaunting.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but even if you weren't, let's say you weren't, I mean, and you haven't always been right.
Oh yeah, time. I've been wrong.
It's okay if they're like, I don't believe in that. I'm out. That's okay. Because the other part is, for you want people on the team that are passionate about the cause, the mission.
Yes.
Again, the process.
I think the process is
even if
key.
we fail, I'm still in because I believe in the vision, the mission. And if, again, that what if, like if we're successful, then there are these really cool things that can come about.
Totally.
But I mean, if someone's like, I just don't buy into that, that's fine.
Yeah. And I think the key thing for me there, it's not me being individually right about any one thing.
Yeah.
It's being right about, hey, when you put the process to work, it works out.
Yeah.
When you talk to customers, when you get feedback, when you optimize and change to make a better experience for people.
Yeah.
When you're striving to always make a better product for people.
Yeah.
That process always works because you're trying to do right by your customers.
Yeah.
You're never like, hey, let's take shortcuts. If they came to me and said, hey, you're always taking shortcuts and you're always trying to screw people, I would hope they would leave.
Yeah.
But when it's like, I don't know if these things are going to work. And sometimes that problem is that they're looking too much at the application. This is something that I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Is almost always in business, we're looking too much at the final applications or the tactical side of things.
Yeah.
And we're not looking at the bigger principles and then big central ideas or doctrines or guiding missions or guiding principles or beliefs or whatever those are, whatever you want to call them. And I try and spend more time up here thinking like, hey, you might look at this and say, well, I don't think this is going to work because I don't think Dream Machine's going to work.
Yeah.
It's like, well, but that's not the guiding principle. The guiding principle is we make products that impact people's lives, that help them to live a better life.
Yeah.
We give it to them at a price that is reasonable and affordable based on the value we're giving them.
Yeah.
Those guiding principles
and the bigger
are going to
picture
work.
too is you're not looking at yourself as a pillow company.
Yeah.
You're a sleep improvement company, which kind of changes the whole vision or the whole mission of the thing. And I think for creators too that get stuck on one product, I just make this product instead of, well, why are you making that product? Is there a bigger vision? Which opens the doors for potentially new products, other types of products, related products or whatever, instead of just being pigeonholed into like, oh, I'm the wallet guy or whatever. Right.
Yeah. And I think every great brand does that. I look at, I think Thread's done an amazing job of that. I think Cotopaxi, I mean, all of these groups in Utah and outside of Utah, Liquid Death, like I think Liquid Death's been very interesting in that people are like, well, all you have is water. And it's like, do you know how much we can do in the refreshment
sell a basketball
and consumption
that looks
of
like a
water?
severed head?
Yeah.
And we can sell Tony
kit.
Hawk like blood in the skateboard or what was it? Was it a skateboard? No, what did they do with it?
It was blood embedded into the deck of the skateboard.
Into the deck of the skateboard.
Yeah.
And they sold out and they were in crazy high demand.
And then they also went had sparkling water, iced tea water, like all of these other things. And so I always look at that and I always say, great entrepreneurs will build more space for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, look at Google and how Google just slowly over time expanded into all of these other things that were beyond search.
Yeah.
But it's because they're great entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And not everyone's absolutely, super successful, like Google Circles and, and the Google Glass and stuff. Like, they haven't really, there's things that they're willing to fail because they're kind of on a mission to, again, generally speaking, try to make people's lives better. And when you get huge, it's harder and harder maybe to stay focused on the original mission. But
and I think that's another one of my guiding principles is it's totally fine to fail unless we refuse to learn from it.
Yeah.
So if we refuse to learn from our failures, then we shouldn't fail.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to learn from the failures,
then
failing
it's part
is great.
Of the process.
I mean, every single one of these, like I said, tons of little failures. Like, oh, we did Cubs and it was great and people were excited, and then we can't sell any after the Kickstarter. And it's like, what did we do wrong? Where did we miss? And it was all those little failures that if we had just finally said, okay, just get rid of it. Let's just, accept TJ Maxx's offer to sell these on a discount and we'll just kill the brand, kill the product line.
Yeah.
But instead it was like, what are the failures telling us? Mm-hmm. What did we miss? What did we do wrong? And I think that is the key. Like, every single great consumer brand that we work with and that I know, those are the things they share. I mean, Owlet, even with getting finally the FDA, like, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, this is the end.
Oh, so long.
They didn't do it.
So many, like, investors and like friends and family. If I can get Kurt to come on, this is going to be an amazing story. Yeah. Especially as it applies to like brand sweat and tears, because there's been a lot of sweat and tears. I know.
Yeah. To get that thing turned around.
To get it to where it is. It's no easy feat. I mean, it's been a passion project for sure, because it wasn't just all the ones who've bailed or been doubters were the ones who were just focused on the money or the profitability or whatever, and I think there was a bigger mission there.
I'm sure Kurt has learned a lifetime of lessons around being lonely. I mean, there were just tons of people who were like, they should just give up.
Yeah.
And the FDA ruling was kind of stupid in the beginning, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, it was kind of a, like, oh
really?
My gosh, really? Yeah. We're going to nitpick over, like, the wording of this.
Yeah.
But that's what great entrepreneurs do. And Kurt's a great entrepreneur. Yeah. He was willing to say, I believe in this mission, and I'm going to keep working until I solve these things.
Yeah.
Even if every single person on my team doesn't believe me. And he has a great team. I mean, he has a lot of people who have stood by him. And investors who stood by him, and then some who didn't. Yeah. And so you learn in those hard times, like, well, here's what I'm made of, and it really kind of proves you as an individual. Yeah. You really get to go through those difficult experiences. So, anyways, super fun.
Well, so Jay, wrapping up, this has been awesome. It's such a good conversation. I love doing this podcast because it's so fun to have conversations like this. Even if no one listens. I know, like, my mom and my wife, I don't even know. My wife hasn't given me 100% guarantee that she'll even listen. So I might not have very many listeners.
It's okay.
We'll see. But where do you go from here? You're going to keep creating products. I know you've invested in a lot of products, both cash and services from Creatively and stuff. So, you believe in getting aligned with some of the products that you work on. Working on Dream Machine. You also have launched a ice cream company.
Cold Case Ice Cream.
Cold Case Ice Cream. And is that, what website? Like, where could people find out about that?
coldcaseicecream.com.
Okay.
We drop a new box of 6 brand new flavors every month.
Super premium.
Super premium, super high end, but the flavors are unreal.
Yes. So if you're an ice cream lover like me, you got to go check it out. And Dream Machine, you are in the process of fundraising and modifying the prototype, or modifying that version that you sold on Kickstarter, improving it. So do you have timelines, or what do you want to like say about Dream Machine if people are interested in that?
Yeah, you can reach out to us directly.
Which actually we didn't really describe it. It's a bedside device.
Yep.
Kind of the size of like a small sound machine type thing. It's got light, temperature, aroma.
Yep. Sound, light that simulates sunset and sunrise. The whole idea is like getting
optimal
people
circadian rhythm, kind of optimal sleep.
Without you having to make a conscious decision to do anything.
Right.
We're trying to get back to where we were 200 years ago, where you would go to sleep because your body told you to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we've had all these disruptions.
Yeah.
Artificial light, artificial cooling and heating, phones that have blue light when you're, end of the day, you're not supposed to be seeing blue light. You're supposed to see yellow light from a sunset.
Yeah.
And so when you have blue light coming from a screen, it's telling you to stay awake.
Yeah.
So that's just a natural thing. And so what we're trying to do is create something that uses machine learning and AI to fix your environment so you actually get optimal sleep without you having to make a bunch of conscious decisions when at the end of the day, you're kind of worn out on determination.
Yeah.
Some of those things that you should be able to say, I'm going to be determined. I'm going to have good habits.
Yeah.
And what's happening is we get to the end of the day and the device is just overruling good habits and good decision making.
Yeah.
So
we're all lazy when we're super tired. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to help people with that. And then other things as well. Can we influence and optimize sleep while you're sleeping? There's really never been a device that's truly done that where it's optimized sleep while sleeping. In some of the ways that we're working on. So it's some crazy technology and super excited to get it launched.
Awesome. Stair slide.
Stair slide, yeah.
Which
more
is,
than enough to do.
Yeah. Slide for kids to literally put on the stairs. Such a great name because it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Kids love it. They'll break their necks but have fun doing it, right?
Yeah, it's a blast. Yeah, we have new stuff launching there. We have an exit piece that allows kids to kind of slide out a lot easier.
Awesome.
There's just always things going.
And there was one other, what's the other thing associated with stair slide? You kind of
Boulder Play.
Boulder Play.
So we bought another toy brand and then merged it together with Stair Slide.
Okay.
The parent org is called Boulder Play.
Okay.
But the individual brands are really what shine there. Like it's kind of like a Mattel or a Hasbro. Like we're not marketing or pushing the Boulder Play name. It's just the parent organization.
But there's other stuff besides the Stair Slide that's under that brand. Again, all about physical activity for kids instead of screen time.
Yep.
Get them outside. But fun. And is there indoor and outdoor?
Indoor and outdoor.
So even if it's rainy, they have lots of cool toys that they can play with. Like obstacle coursey kind of inside like bounce house kind of activities. Right?
Yeah. One of the ones I really love is they have a swing that attaches to a doorway. So if you have like a 2, 3, 4-year-old during the winter when it's raining outside, they can swing in their doorway. So just fun stuff. Like I think that's another thing that we all care a lot about as parents. It's why we loved working with Web Safety and Gab. Is we want our kids to not
be screen zombies
and addicted to screens and have more of a childhood like our childhood, which was playing night games at night, being outside and doing all that fun stuff instead of just playing video games.
It's funny. This is going to really date me, and I'm my family was even a little old school, but I didn't even have a TV in my house until I was maybe 14 or something.
That's amazing.
Cell phones weren't even a thing. They didn't exist until I was, I don't know, I want to say I had my first cell phone when I was like 21, but that was like those were like the beginning of cell phones. Prior to that, it was like my rich friend's dad, who was a doctor, that had a huge military-sized walkie-talkie cell phone in his Porsche, right? But so
I remember,
it's amazing how much technology has changed just in our lifetimes. But the scary part is, my kids are addicted to screens for sure. So anything that can get them doing more physical activity, more
get them outside.
Doing that kind of stuff is good.
Yeah, I remember still, my friend's dad was a lawyer. And I remember I was probably 11 or 12. And it was the first time he just bought a brand new BMW that had a car phone. Yeah. And that was the first time I was like... It was
like the military grade.
Oh, yeah, it was huge. And like the whole middle between the front seat and the front two seats. Yeah. The whole thing was the phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah,
a phone inside of a car?
Yeah, crazy.
How does that even work?
Yeah.
Wild where we've come.
Call off of our little watches on the wrists. So
while you're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
So
well, dude,
crazy.
This is awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. We'll do it again in a year when you're like a billionaire philanthropist, and we'll talk about all your philanthropic efforts and stuff. So this is good.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.